Welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. We believe life is about how we react. Welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. Thanks for tuning in today. We are still in the midst of some crazy times, and life has just been, well, I want to say different, Kyle, but I almost feel like, 6 weeks or 8 weeks into it, it's almost like it's the new normal. So I don't know if it's really different anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point. It changed very quickly in a couple of weeks, and now everyone's settling in. And, I have to say that not everyone is able to settle, right? I am still able to work from home. You go to work every day, but we have to recognize that that is not the case for everyone. And that's what's so hard about it. Like, we're all going through this, but obviously experiencing it in different ways.
It's a good point, and I'm glad you're bringing that up because it's easy to read articles about, I want to say like 20 some odd million have applied for unemployment. But like 40,000 or tens of thousands of deaths, I can imagine being related to either one of those so closely.
Yeah.
But knowing at the same time that some people, that is very stark reality for them. So we do wish and hope the best for all of our listeners. We hope that you're managing okay. And we hope that we're starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel. So thanks for tuning in and letting us be a part of your isolation measures, if you will.
Yep. Yeah, and as we have our conversation today, I think that we do it in that context. Like, we're going to talk about some stuff that we have noticed, but recognizing that not everyone is experiencing in the same way. So
yeah, it's definitely going to be different for people. But speaking of, Kyle, things we've observed or noticed, I'm curious from you. You've been home now for upwards 6 weeks or so. I'm still going to work most days of the, 5 or so days out of the week. What's been different for you? What is something you've observed or learned being stuck at home, if you will?
Well, one of the things that I have been thinking about the last few days, because grocery shopping is like a way different game than it used to be. And you know that because you see it every day. But I have been relying on Instacart and different home delivery services, grocery delivery services. And I have really been wanting to go back to the store recently. And again, it's funny because you're there every day or almost every day. But, it's hard when, like the other day, I got a thing of oranges from Instacart. And there were a lot of them were bruised and they looked like they'd been on the shelf for 2 weeks. And I was like, come on, what the heck? And I was just imagining, that there were oranges that were good right next to those. And I was like, come on, can't you just choose good oranges?
Do you think it was a matter of the individual choosing didn't really know what they were looking for, or the quality of the brand you bought, the retailer you bought them from, or do you think they were just in a hurry and probably didn't care?
I think it was probably a combination of the person might not know what to look for, and they're probably in a hurry. They're filling whatever it is, 12 or 15 orders a day. I don't even know. And they're like, all right, let's just get through another one, right? But the oranges came from Wegmans, and we both know that Wegmans has good stuff, right? So I was imagining that there was decent oranges like sitting right next to it. Yeah. This person just chose.
Most likely. I wonder if it's a thing of familiarity or not. Yeah. I was, in the business, at least in my experience, we've been hiring quite a bit demand has just been off the charts. So we need a lot of extra hands and a lot of help. And I noticed the other day or recently, being up front near the check stands, a guest was buying something that they thought was something else. Mm-hmm. So they said, "Oh no, that's green zucchini," and I'm like, "Oh, that is not the green zucchini." Not to argue, but if their recipe calls for green zucchini and they're putting in cucumber, it's not going to taste the same, right? So I'm like, that's not green, but I can grab green and show you just to make sure you getting home with the right stuff. And so I asked somebody to help, like, "Hey, can you run and grab me a green zucchini?" And the individual's like, "A what?" So then I asked somebody else, like, "Hey, do you know come on, hurry, I need a green zucchini." And they're like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So that's in one moment, two different people. Now, to be fair, both young, both not experienced in produce or grocery. So I don't think it's a matter of, IQ or intelligence. I think it's a matter of they just probably don't cook and don't use vegetables a lot. So they really just didn't know. And for a moment, I was shocked. Like, how do you not know what a green zucchini is?
Yeah. My dad makes smoothies a lot. And one day he made a smoothie with kale in it. And he gave a little bit to my niece. And she's like, "Papa, my tongue itches. This is really weird. I don't know what this is." And it turned out he put mustard greens in instead of kale. So, yeah.
Oh, man. That's a big one. It just reminds me, the most common oversight I've noticed, or at least I feel like I've noticed when it comes to herbs, is somebody's buying cilantro thinking it's parsley. And that's a really big difference in your tacos or whatever it is you're making. Like, that's just not going to taste the same. Anyway, so besides your grocery experience, what is something that can you think of anything that you've come to appreciate about your time at home?
You know what? About my time at home, I'm really appreciating, like, not being obligated to, like, hang out, right? We were talking about this the other day, like, no longer do you have to be like, "Oh, I gotta drive all the way across town just to hang out with people because I've got this FOMO or whatever it is," right? And so, I've really been appreciating being at home, and I know that you mentioned that was something that you appreciate as well.
Yeah, and it's not at all. I don't think either one of us are saying it's a chore to hang out with our friends or meet up for coffee. But man, when it's not a choice, it's actually kind of nice. Like, I'm going home right after work. I'm going to go to bed at a halfway decent hour. There's no obligation or pressure to show up. Now, of course, on the flip side, that's kind of made life boring. All I'm doing is driving to work and driving home. I can't go meet a friend for coffee. So there's definitely, I appreciate not having to do certain things, like go to the gym. Like, there's no pressure to have to kill 2 or 3 hours doing that. But I'm also starting to miss it. So I guess I appreciate and hoping this really is just a season that is going to end.
Right. And then you're like, all right, since I'm not going to the gym, I better figure out something to do at home, right? So then there's that added pressure The other thing I'm thinking is that are we just going to go, like, are we going to remember how nice it is to stay home sometimes? Are we just going to return to, the way things were right when things get back to normal?
I do think there'll be an immediate jump back to normal in a sense. Like, I think restaurants will get busy and, all those moms and dads that are tired of cooking. So I think in that regard, there'll be an influx, personal opinion. But I also think that won't last forever. I do think there'll be some eternal change, if you will.
Sean, speaking of change, what do you think some changes will be due to this situation, like that stay for the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do think, like most of us probably agree, life will never be exactly the same again. And one of the specific thoughts I had is the bulk foods category. The whole reaching in and scooping out your own oats or gummy worms. That's always been somewhat of a questionable practice because we all know kids or whatever get in there and pick out their own, or when mom's not looking, sneak one out. But it's obviously going to be a bigger concern today, considering germs and viruses. So I do wonder, is that whole category in the store going to go away?
Yeah, I kind of think so. And I think we'll be talking to people, or maybe, in mixed company in a few years and be like, yeah, you used to be able to just like scoop your cereal out into a bag. They're like, what? That's so weird.
Why would you do that? Yeah, exactly. Along the same lines, I think the same thing about buffet restaurants. I do feel like they've lost traction since I was a kid. When I was younger, my dad and the family loved Sizzler. I don't even know if Sizzler is still around.
No, I definitely pretty often. Did that when I was young.
Yeah. So, are buffets really going to be a thing in 2021 or beyond?
Yeah. No, I was talking to one of our Outback partners that for Ride a Taxi and just trying to figure out what the heck we're going to do when this thing blows over and we're able to have events again. And it was the same kind of thing. He's like, I think maybe we're going to have to do everything in like a to-go box, and we're going to have to do away with like the open buffet lines at the events.
That makes me think it's kind of, I guess in a sense, it's sad because on the health side of it, we're taking a step forward, right? Where maybe we're moving in the direction of prepackaged or sealed containers. But then you think about the environmental side of it, we're probably going to be taking a step backwards or several steps backwards if we're having to use more plastic or any container, really, for that matter. We're going to be creating more waste in a sense.
We were talking about airlines, right? And like the food on airlines and the fact that those peanuts are they are all the time. They're individually wrapped, right?
Yeah.
And so just as an example of something individually wrapped, like maybe those things will stay around, but everything's going to go to individually wrapped,
Yeah, so when you throw a birthday party for your kids or yourself, you're going to have to start buying individually wrapped party favors and snacks. Like, there's no more cookie trays laid out.
Each kid gets a slice of cake, but they're all like pre-packaged individually wrapped.
I just feel like this stuff's about to get really expensive.
Yeah.
For several reasons.
One other thing that I think is going to change, it makes sense, but it makes me nervous. Fauci said the other day, or whenever it was, that he doesn't think that it's necessary to bring the handshake back. Like, maybe the handshake is gone forever. And that's crazy, because how automatic is that? Like every time I meet someone or even see somebody I know, the first thing I do is take out my hand, for a handshake. So
Yeah, no, I feel like that's something we learned as little kids, right? The first thing you do when mom or dad introduce you to a stranger is a handshake or maybe a fist bump, but same idea. And that makes me wonder about the overall cultural shift. A lot of cultures, they don't do a handshake. They do a curtsy or a bow or some sort of other non-physical, touching sort of thing. But then there are some cultures where a handshake is like the least of their problems, right? They're kissing each other on the cheek or something similar. So I wonder what the shift will be across the board, not just the handshake.
I would think that all of that kind of stuff has to go away. I mean, whether it's needed or not, is debate. But I think it probably, with all of this situation in mind, it probably all goes away.
I just thought of something that I was the other day or a week ago, whatever. I was at the post office and I needed to send a birthday card, and I was running kind of late on sending it, so I bought the card at the post office. So that tells you my selection was limited, right? So I bought it at the post office, filled it out, threw some cash in there, and adjusted the envelope, and then realized there's only one way to seal the envelope, right?
Oh, yeah.
What do I do? Luckily, I had some tape in my car, but I froze for a minute because I'm like, I'm not at home, so I can't just get Scotch tape, and most of these envelopes don't have the rip-off plastic covering or, acetate sort of covering. So, it took me a second, and I realized this probably isn't going to be a thing in a while.
Yeah, all envelopes will come with the tear-off sticky thing, right? Were you looking around for a puddle or something to rub your
What's funny is I actually looked at everybody else in the post office, hoping that either A, they weren't watching me, wondering what I was gonna do, or B, hoping that somebody saw me and had some tape to offer me.
What if someone just came up to you and was like, "Here, dude, I'll lick that for you. Don't worry about it."
I don't know. I don't know.
Or you just go, "Hey, can you lick this for me?"
And throw it in. I don't want to touch it when you're done. Just put it in the mailbox. I don't think the recipient would have appreciated that.
Yeah. So, Sean, I know that you've been going into work because you work at a grocery store, but I've been working from home, and I haven't worn real shoes in over a month. Except I put shoes on to get on my rowing machine, but other than that, that's, 40 minutes out of the day or whatever, I've been wearing slippers.
Do you do your hair at all?
No, I in fact have not done my hair. I've only worn hats for a month, and it's kind of nice because people will understand, right? They're like, totally. Oh, everyone's in the same situation. Everyone's wearing hats, so yeah.
I think, hearing you say it that way, I know earlier you mentioned FOMO. It's definitely been an easier adjustment knowing everybody is stuck at home. So there is that sense of we're not in this by ourselves, but we are. So there's certainly, there's definitely, I suppose, an added benefit knowing I'm not the only one up against these changes, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's what's unique about this, in contrast to other challenges in society, right? We're all, like I said at the beginning, we're experiencing it different ways, obviously, but we're all kind of in the same situation. And maybe that helps us understand each other a little better. I don't know. I mean, that might not, I don't know. Yeah.
No, I think it might definitely create a sense of unity amongst even strangers. We're all going to be able to look back and lean on that time that we all experienced a similar sort of circumstances. So I do think there's some value in that hopefully makes the world a better place when this is all over.
You talk about connecting with other people. I think that, even though we're not able to be in face-to-face or physically in person, this situation has really taught us all that we can connect in so many other ways, right? Especially in the rare disease community. Rare disease is just that, right? It's in the name. It's a rare, so we're dispersed all over the place. We can't be in person all the time, even in normal times, right?
Yeah.
And we seemed to have been forced to discover these virtual connection devices, right, or methods just recently. And these things they didn't just appear. They've been around for a while, right? But we seem to have just discovered them. And it's kind of a neat revelation for everybody to be able to connect like this, I think.
Yeah. I imagine there's been a big jump for things like Skype and Zoom and whatever similar platforms are out there. But yeah, they've been in existence. Like some people have been using them for 10 years or whatever. Yeah, and they're like, they're probably mad because their bandwidth is slowing down. And they're like, get out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop that.
So I think that's something that can and will continue even when we're able to get back in person.
Yeah, that's definitely something I've thought of along the same lines. It really is no excuse for not connecting with friends and family. Like, how easy is it to do a FaceTime or a Zoom call?
Totally.
Or a Skype call without having to travel or whatever. Like, people, I know I do it all the time. Like, I never see him, I never talk to him or them. And I think it's always been an easy excuse. We live across the country or whatever. So hopefully that helps me personally get a little more intentional about staying connected to people I care
just
about.
Noticing it. Yeah.
So, obviously, I'm curious what some of our listeners are up to. Kyle, in the beginning, you talked about this being a different time for all of us, and I do believe that's absolutely true. So, for our listeners, what are you experiencing, or what are your predictions? If you want to have fun with us, what do you think is going to change long term? Or if you just want to share what has been a challenge for you or your family or what's been fun, please do. Let us know. You can comment online. You can leave a review and throw it in there. Whatever you want. We're here and we'd love to know how you're managing through this season.
Sean, do you have a thank you note for today?
Oh, of course I do. As you know, just like all of our listeners, we've built in a note of gratitude, if you will, in every episode. So I wouldn't dare come unprepared. So actually, I want to say thank you to Susan and our friends at the XLH Network. We met Susan last year at the Global Genes Rare Patient Summit in 2019, and we've emailed over the last few months, and we had made plans to drop in on an event they were having in San Francisco, but as you and everybody knows, the events have been canceled left and right. So Susan was kind enough to invite us to a virtual sort of happy hour, if you will, and join that conversation for 20 minutes or so. And it was just a lot of fun connecting with people that we've never met. And I appreciated being able to do that. So Susan and the XLH Network, thanks for inviting us, and thank you for letting us crash your party.
Sean, you stole mine. That I have the same one. It was really nice Friday night to spend time with, it's a different rare disease, but I think that there's such a strong connection because there's so many shared experiences that are exactly the same, emotions that we all feel and experiences that we all have that really translate. And it's really nice to connect with people that understand what we're going through or what we have been going through. And, I saw the strength of the XLH network in the faces that I saw on that virtual happy hour, as you said. And I really appreciate being part of that. And so Susan and the whole XLH network, thank you.
Well, there it is. We'd encourage you to think of something that you're grateful for and find a way to express that gratitude. Whether you talk about it on a recording like this or a note to a loved one or just write it in a journal. Kyle and I both believe that gratitude helps us center our minds and really our attitude. So be grateful today. Kyle, thanks for stealing my thinking note. Where I guess in this case I stole yours, but you copied me. I don't know.
Let's just call it reinforcing. We reinforced each other. We're on the same page.
That's genius, like a married couple, but we're not.
Oh man!
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in today. We hope that there's a light at the end of the tunnel for all of us, and we look forward to chatting with you next time. Until then, keep living with urgency.
Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast.
Find us online at twodisableddudes.com and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Special thanks to our friend and audio producer, Jake Tompkins.